We looked at his calendar. We looked at emails. We brought in people for hours and hours of depositions. The legal peril here isn't the fact that the Autopen was used excessively. It's the unauthorized use of the Autopen by a president that was clearly in mental and physical decline, and his administration tried to shield that cognitive decline from the American people.
Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer's findings from the House investigation into Joe Biden's Autopen use, leading to President Trump announcing that he is canceling, quote, any document signed by Sleepy Joe Biden with the Autopen. Former White House Press Secretary and Saturday in America host Kayleigh McEnany joining us now. And, you know, Kayleigh, we've been talking about it some already this morning. Really, the frequency is crazy, like 88% of documents signed by the Autopen. But as you just heard from Chairman Comer, it wasn't the frequency that's so concerning. It was the potential unauthorized use of it. It makes you wonder, Kayleigh, were people inside the White House during the Biden presidency even concerned about this?
They were, actually. And funny enough, I brought my pink Autopen. I always have it on me, the pink Autopen. But in the White House, Axios reported that folks raised questions. In fact, the staff secretary, that's a big job in the White House. They control the paper flow. Said, hey, I need to know whether this was authorized or not. Show me the email where the president authorized that. That's a big report. Not only that, the DOJ came to White House counsel, also within the West Wing, and was raising questions about the clemency process. So the Autopen is a bit, in my opinion, of low-hanging fruit because every president has used it. The big deal is the mental acuity, the cover-up, the decline, those in the Biden White House who raise questions. And it's good of the president to ask these questions. It's good to have some semblance of accountability because we had a president in decline. And might I say the bigger question isn't when the Autopen was used, but what decisions were made without the Autopen in the Situation Room, when Afghanistan was happening, when 13 service members died at the Abbey Gate. None of that required an Autopen. It did require a president with mental capacity that I don't believe Joe Biden had.
You know, you talk about what we know about pardons, for example, that were used, signed by the Autopen. It includes members of Biden's family, excluding Hunter. Hunter was apparently done in person, but it's also got General Mark Milley, Dr. Anthony Fauci. Yeah. You've got some of the January 6th committee members. What do you think this holds for them? Should they be worried?
Yeah, pardons were given out like candy. It was like, you get a pardon, you get a pardon, you get a pardon, like a car with back in the Oprah days. What's concerning to me is, yes, those individuals who felt they needed a pardon, but so too the individuals who were on the hook, had criminal convictions. One individual who was charged with killing an 8-year-old, convicted for that, and somehow gets a pardon? Why? What was the reason? Why were pardons being handed out in such a cavalier fashion? That's the biggest thing, because as you all covered, the executive orders can be undone. It doesn't matter Autopen or not. The clemencies, the pardons, however, President Trump can't just roll away those, but the Autopen raises a new question.
You know, for a long time, people would ask those of us on Fox, who's running the White House? But now when you get this investigation and they've tracked, you know, things that were signed, decisions that were made with the Autopen when President Biden's not even in the White House, not even in Washington, he's elsewhere. Take us inside the West Wing. Can you imagine a presidency with such major decisions being made without the actual president?
And that's it. Who was running the White House in these key decisions, because there were lives that were lost. I mean, Griff, you remember this. Afghanistan was falling, and President Biden was in Delaware, and then they moved him to Camp David, and then there were all these meetings in the Situation Room. Was he a part of all of them? Was he not part of some of them? Who was making that disastrous decision? The President of the United States is the one duly elected. The American people put their stamp of approval, their vote behind him, not some subsidiary, be it Jill Biden, the First Lady, the Chief of Staff, or as President Trump said, the radical lunatics encircling that Oval Office desk. I used to be one of the people who'd sit across from the president there. I wasn't a radical lunatic, but I also wasn't elected to run the country.
That's right. All right, so let's talk about Saturday in America. What do you have coming up?
So coming up, we have Van Epps, who you covered in that crucial Tennessee race. We also have Doug Burgum. People forget the National Guard are on the ground, but so too are the Park Police. So I'm going to ask him about that. Mark Wayne Mullen and some of our favorites. So join us Saturday in America.
I love it. You know, you mentioned Park Police. By the way, we all saw a helicopter landing on the mall, and that was actually a key part of taking the Guard members to evacuate them to the the hospital, an important part of that story.
That's right. And the Park Police valiantly guarding the White House, I remember helping us out during those riots in 2020. So they're on the ground. We hold our law enforcement close to our heart, especially this Thanksgiving.
It's going to be a great show coming up in just over a half an hour. Kayleigh McEnany, Saturday in America. Thanks for being here.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.